Hello, welcome to The BIM Student. I'm your host Chetna Chauhan. Ever since the inception of this podcast, we have been talking about creating awareness and a dialogue around digital technologies in AEC. However, it takes collective voices and organized initiatives to bring about quantifiable changes in how any industry would progress. One such organization in Canada is CanBIM. CanBIM serves as Canada's business voice for entire building and infrastructure community who are collectively working to advance civilization and improve built environment through adopting and implementing digital technologies and practices. I have sat down with Thomas Strong, President and CEO of CanBIM, to understand what this organization is all about and how is it helping to build digital future of AEC industry in Canada. Welcome, Thomas. I am really glad you took out time to chat with me, share your ideas, and talk more about CanBIM. Welcome to my podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
Tom, quickly, I want to know about your background and also about CanBIM, because that's what we are here to talk about. So let's dive right into it.
I've been operating in the construction industry for around 20 years. Started my career in automotive. I went through for plastic injection mold making. And that was like kind of right out of high school in the late 90s, I'd say. And you know, in the automotive world, everybody was working in 3D models at the time, and we worked in a 3D modeling space as well, using CNC machines to cut steel and make very precise components, and everything was controlled in this 3D environment. And then I went back to school. I went through for architectural technology, and then I started working at Elliston. I worked at Elliston for 17 years. You know, my experience there was coming into the construction world. I was kind of just baffled right at the very beginning on how the industry operated, in that everyone worked around this idea of risk transfer and risk control, where, you know, architects and engineers produce documentation that is, everyone knows to be incomplete, and then the responsibility to complete that work is put on the sub-trades, et cetera, and the general contractor to coordinate downstream. And coming from the automotive perspective, I was just kind of baffled that was the process, right? So yeah, I spent 17 years at Elliston, and that was, you know, my first impression on the industry was things can improve dramatically here, just by working more proactively and introducing new technologies, specifically 3D modeling and whatnot. I had the opportunity to get involved with Frank Gehry and became sort of the Frank Gehry de facto expert for the company. Kind of traveled around the world, touring Frank Gehry projects that were under construction at the time, understanding the technology that was being used. Really great opportunity to get exposed to the cutting edge. And Gary's office at the time was very proactive with introducing 3D modeling technologies. We worked on some amazing projects, built up a huge team of really high expertise people, cutting edge work. And those people are all over the business now, all over Canada, all over the world, working into various capacities. And concurrent to that, helped to set up and found CanBIM. CanBIM's purpose really at the beginning was to drive the use of technology in construction, you know, specifically around BIM, because we recognize that BIM is a team sport, right? Everyone needs to produce models. We need to collect those models. We need to integrate them. But if you're going out to your suppliers, your supply chain, and they don't have maturity with this technology, it's very hard to achieve that value, right? So the whole industry needed to evolve. So we established this group. The intent was to drive awareness and advocate for people to make investments and sort of up their game in this category. The organization is 1,100 members now, and we're very active and very, very proud of what we've been able to accomplish.
That's great. And my personal experience with CanBIM has been very enriching. I've been involved very actively in past few years, and I just feel it brings so much value to everybody who's in the industry, and not just in the form of networking, but what we take away from each conference, what we take away from each meeting that we have. This year I attended my first AGM and I got so much out of it. So yeah, you guys are doing a great job with CanBIM.
It's a great community. And I mean, that really sums up what the organization is. Like, it's no single person owns the organization. It's a community of people that are all interested in the same thing, that want to collaborate. And in my mind, there's no real equivalent. You know, people participate from all over the world, and we have a lot of people that participate from the US because they feel like this is the home for them, right? We're the home of the people that are focused on technology and innovation in this industry, and they're looking for other people like them that share their interests, where they can learn from each other and collaborate. If we were to summarize the organization in a description, it's a community, it's a network, and people come to learn, but they also come to share. It's been really nice participating in it and helping to make it successful. Of course, the organization does all sorts of other things, provide training opportunities, access to best practices and other things. We serve a really important function in the industry in that we help the companies that are developing technology for the industry. We help them reach their audience, and we help the individuals that are trying to find solutions, innovative solutions and new technologies, find that technology. We tend to be this meeting ground between the technology creators and the technology users. That world's getting even more blended as the industry evolves, because a lot of companies are developing their own technology for their own purposes, right? And that's really maybe what the cutting edge now is, and companies are really starting to compete on their ability to not just pick the best tool and implement it, but maybe even create the best tool that gives them an advantage.
Oh yeah, that's great. I'm very curious also to know about how are we in CanBIM getting other organizations, let's say international organizations, other associations, help us reach the goals that we initially chalked down for CanBIM? How are we associating ourselves with them?
It's super important to work with everyone in the industry to help advance the industry, right? And I think what is unique about CanBIM is that the organization it's not discipline specific, right? We have architects, engineers, general contractors, trades, owners, operators, developers, technology creators, academics, all working together on a common set of problems. And that's sort of unique as industry associations go. Typically, we have the Canadian Construction Association and all the provincial associations that exist, and they're very focused on construction. And then there's the architects associations and engineering associations, et cetera. So those groups are very focused on their particular discipline, and that their stakeholders are those individuals working in those professional roles. And what's unique with us is that we're kind of thinking about the life cycle of projects and the delivery of the projects across the board. So we need to interface with all those associations effectively and help them introduce best practices and help them up the skills and awareness and advocate within those organizations. So those relationships are super important to us. And then we also maintain relationships with international organizations and other organizations similar to CanBIM around the world. BIM Turkey comes to mind because we were helping them with an event just recently. BIM Africa, there's a number of them, right? So we care about the international community, and part of what we want to do as a Canadian organization is represent Canadian expertise internationally. We want to highlight the awesome stuff we're doing here, the innovation. We want to help Canadian companies reach foreign markets and export our capability. We want to help Canadian startups reach international markets. So to the extent that we can develop relationships internationally that can be conduits for those that work and those opportunities, we want to do that. And also vice versa, we can learn from the international community. I mean, there's really amazing things happening in different markets. The purpose of CanBIM is to help the Canadian market innovate, introduce new technologies, ultimately to improve our civilization. Our industry creates the cities we occupy. We create the infrastructure that we use, right? And if we can deliver that in a more efficient way, then society benefits. We're building a better world ultimately. But to drive that mission, you need to be able to measure it, which is complicated, but certainly understanding what's happening in the international space and using that to kind of benchmark where we are, that's what we need to do, and that's what we need to get better at.
Oh, yeah. If I talk to, let's say, friends back in India, or even I have some friends even in US, and there are two different countries with totally different outlook on BIM and totally different outlook on technologies that we are using, and even the process that we are following, and with different strengths. So yeah, I do get the essence of what you're talking about here. I also want to talk about memberships. BIMWise is a member of CanBIM, and we've hugely benefited out of it. But I want you to really outline that what benefits do members get, and how are we growing our business, and everything about memberships.
The organization is its members, right? It's owned by the members. So we operate based on all the members contributing money and throwing it into a common pot so that we can drive the programs that we drive to try to advance that mission. So membership really just it keeps the lights on in the organization. So we have a group of people that help to implement our programs, and all those programs are designed to create value for our members, our stakeholders. We have a number of different programs. If I were to say what the chief benefit is that members get, it's the ability to have a seat at the table, to participate with the other members and shape the initiatives and shape the organization and shape the industry. By being a member, you get access to participate in our think tanks, for example. These are groups of industry professionals that are focused on a particular challenge in the industry and re-envisioning the best practices and trying to reshape how the industry operates around that particular challenge going forward. So by paying to be a member, you're paying to support the infrastructure necessary to support the think tanks. Other programs like our awards program, which is designed to highlight the innovative things that our members are doing in the market. So I guess there is like a marketing value and there's a branding value. More tangibly, I think by participating in our events, you have the opportunity to network with people. So if you're selling services or selling technology, you can access people and build relationships that can ultimately help you grow your organization, grow your business, right? As an organization, we really want to help businesses transform. We're all kind of grappling with the pace of change, the amount of innovation, the amount of technological disruption that's happening in our industry as we digitize all of our work. So what we want to do is really focus on helping our members keep pace with the rest of the industry, make sure they're on the cutting edge, get exposed to the best practices and technologies that are being used, learn from their industry peers, and help to implement these new technologies and methods within their business so that they can, stay competitive, but also excel, right? And we hope that we're delivering that by participating in the organization. You meet a lot of young people, a lot of people coming into our market that are looking for employment, highly skilled people. They're attracted to participate with the organization because this is where they know their peers are. And by ultimately participating here, you get access to all those people that you can recruit into your organization if you're looking to hire. And, exposure, like with the brand, obviously making sure that people understand, hey, we're on the cutting edge. Here's some examples of our work, so that when you're trying to attract talent and when you're trying to get work, you have a reputation in the market on being leaders. So there's a broad set of benefits, I guess, is the short answer.
I want to come down to one thing in particular. Let's say there is an organization, a company who's just in an infancy or just have even conceived the idea of technology or digital transformation, and they become part of CanBIM. Other than recruitment and resources, how would you help them come abreast with the industry, with their competition?
Well, specifically, I think that, if you're a small company, the struggle often is you don't have the capital to invest in specialized roles and specialized skills and technology and R&D and whatnot, right? So smaller companies have to be more nimble. They have to be very careful about their investments. So you want to make those decisions with as much information in hand as possible. So being exposed to everything that CanBIM does, it helps you stay informed about where it's very important to invest, as it relates to your technology strategy. What is the most important thing for your business that you need to know about? And what are the things that are interesting, but maybe are downstream and don't warrant an initial investment immediately? I think that smaller companies also, typically you've got a desire to maintain relationships that can deliver regular work. So obviously that I think there's a benefit there. As it relates to best practices, there is like a different set of concerns, right? If you're focused on single family home residential, the way you approach that type of project and the technology that you deploy is distinct and different from how you approach a commercial project for like a $1 billion hospital or something, right? It's a different set of problems. We are kind of trying to figure out that balance with our initiatives. We did start the organization. A lot of big companies like Yellowstone and PCL and others have really shaped the organization with a focus on large projects, right? And those companies have money to spend on R&D and want to figure this out because the stakes are higher. The return on investment when you improve your processes on a major project like that are significant. I think over time we can do a better job of creating more value for smaller companies focused on smaller projects. But it does depend, like if you're, BIM wise and you're providing services maybe into the bigger market, I think understanding how a PCL operates and what your role can be and what services you can provide in that ecosystem is beneficial. I would kind of think about it more from a sector standpoint. I would separate out the single family home res and commercial construction And civil and infrastructure is another area that has a specific set of challenges and problems and unique technologies and processes that need to be addressed. So we have, over time, try to focus on sectors rather than company sizes. But I mean, everyone loves to talk about productivity in our market and how we don't compare well to other industries, which is probably true on whole. It also depends on what you're measuring. If you're only measuring square footage, I think you're kind of not measuring fairly. However, if you do look at just square footage and you break it out by sector, the residential market is actually declined in productivity, significantly, whereas the commercial is actually increased in productivity from 2008 to 2018. Lumping it all together is kind of like an unfair picture of how the industry operates, but we should be thinking about things from a sector standpoint because they do require they're a unique set of problems with a unique set of technologies.
Yeah. Another thing that really intrigues me about is this certification. I feel all kind of certifications validate a person's or a company's skill set in some way. How would you say CanBIM's certifications validate individuals or companies' skill, their credibility? How are you making it better and more viable for the industry?
Yeah. So the certification program it's probably 6-7 years old now, I would say. It came out of a need from our membership saying, hey, we're looking for industry professionals that have these skills, that understand the process of managing accommodated environment and the integration process across multiple stakeholders over a project life cycle. People they're speaking different languages, using different technologies. They're implementing different processes in different ways on different projects, right? We need a way to say, this is an industry professional that does this role, and they know how to interface across the multiple stakeholders. And there's a common language and a common process and a common title and a common sort of professional certification for that. So that was sort of the starting point that drove the development of the program. We wanted to be able to say on a project, when you have trades, general contractors, architects, engineers, all trying to exchange 3D content, that they can recognize each other, they can understand what the needs are on both sides of that transaction, and they can walk through a process to set up their BIM execution plan, and having a role on both sides of the fence so you understand that process you're going to be engaged with to ultimately integrate all that information to flush out the issues. Because one of the areas where there's a lot of value for the use of BIM is integrating multiple stakeholders' information together proactively to identify issues. That is the core benefit of this technology. As much as there's productivity gains in all categories and there's other things on the peripheral, just simply by integrating information in advance of building, identifying problems, tracking those issues and resolving them, that's where the money is. What we needed to do was create a way for people to say, okay, I have that skill, I have that knowledge, and we needed a way to benchmark that. The certification program is not based around taking a test. It's a peer review process. So there's a number of individuals that are certified. They have the knowledge, they have a certain number of years experience, they've taken a certain amount of training, they've implemented this on projects or on a company wide level, and they're in a position where they're maintaining their skills on an ongoing basis on whatever the cutting edge is. Things have evolved over time where we were exchanging individual files and managing the integration of those files. Now we're doing this all in the cloud, and there's platforms that support that. The tools that you're using are evolving, but the process is more or less the same. So these professionals that do this, they're staying on the cutting edge and they know what the cutting edge is. So they're in a position where they can review other applicants coming into the program that say, okay, I believe I'm certified at this level, or I should be certified at this level based on my skills, education, experience. And then that group of peers reviews it and says, yeah, based on everything we see here, you're at this level, and they certify that individual at that level. So when they go to look for employment, or when an owner says, we need someone with this CanBIM level of certification to coordinate this activity on our project, they have that certification so they can participate in that role. And that is helping the whole industry maintain that common process and walk through the same systems and processes. So it's very people focused, and we think the program's a real success, and it continues to grow. Our challenge is just keeping up with the number of applicants that are coming in, right? And because it is a peer review process, you need to maintain the pool of people that are willing to participate as volunteers to review all these applicants. And it is a bit of an onerous process, as it should be, to do it right. And it does take some time. What we're working on for the next 12 months for the program is more of a team approach, a batching approach, where we can work with a whole company and say, okay, you have a whole department of people here. We're going to help you get that whole group of people through the certification program at once. By pushing them through in a more of a batching process where we can walk them through it systematically, which we hope will help to expedite the process without diminishing the certification level, right? If that makes sense.
It does. It does make a lot of sense. I think what you guys are doing is really great.
I would encourage anyone who's interested in any one of our programs, like the certification program, our awards program. I'll plug our awards program, which is open until the end of July. So anyways, go to our website. All the information's there. The website's very well developed and you can find all the information you need.
We will jump on to our next section, which is impossible questionnaire.
I'm in the hot seat now.
You are, though there's no cash to be won. Your first question is, what is 12D Synergy used for?
12D Synergy, I have no idea. It sounds like a software. To me, 12D Synergy could be a combination of 3D modeling, 4D modeling, sustainability, digital twin, plus the integration of a whole bunch of things to create the synergy.
Okay, I mean, you're not close though, but actually it's a cloud-based solution, which is more like a common data environment. So it is designed to help engineers, architects, construction professionals to automate the process related to project collaboration and document management. It does include the version control, contact management, controls, permissions, task management. So it's more like common data environment, something that...
Well, so then I was right, because I did say software.
Okay, let's give you like 20%, 30% of the definition you were
like 20% of the prize.
Okay. The next question is, I'm going to list the 3 asset management software. Which one of these software does not use BIM data for asset tracking? FMIS, eMaint, and Asset Cloud.
I'm going to go with eMaint, but it's a total guess.
It was a trick question. So actually, all of them use BIM data for asset tracking.
Okay. Well, there's always a way to get the data in. So they all integrate. Well, that's not really it wasn't really a fair question.
These were your 2 questions. And before we end, I want you to talk to me about a rose, a bud, and a thorn that comes out of CanBIM.
I think the rose that is happening right now is that the organization's growing rapidly. And I think that's because the idea, this digital transformation concept has really taken hold of the industry, I would say. I think a lot of, let's call them like the executive class in the industry, they're really starting to pay attention to the opportunity and threat of technology, right? They're worried about technological disruption. They're worried about, being disrupted in their current business models, disintermediation, et cetera. So they're starting to really pay attention to the subject matter. They're starting to invest in it, which is great because that's what we want to have happen. And I think there's a lot of opportunities to improve the industry by introducing new technologies and whatnot. So the bud is, so that's just something that's kind of emerging, that's coming. What I'm excited about for the next 10 years is the influence of not just like the process software that we've been using to date. We've had this, I think the technology that we're using in the industry sort of come out of point tools and point solutions that help us develop and work in silos, to systems, platforms that allow us to share information in a collaborative way in real time. I think that's really evolved over the past 10 years. I think the next big wave is going to be the use of more algorithms in processing to augment labor and effort. So, the emergence of AI tools and whatnot. So maybe it's a thorn too, but the opportunity is to get really good at using algorithms to help expedite your work, improve your work, create optionality. Now I think we're going to be evaluating many solutions that are generated by algorithms and then picking the best one, right? So less refinement, more optionality generated by generative processes. So that's the next 10 years, I think, is the introduction of those types of tools across the board. So you're going to see that for development. You're going to see that for coordination work. And will it replace jobs? Probably not. What it's going to do is allow architects, engineers, professionals to utilize tools, learn how to wrestle these algorithms to get the best outcomes. The thorn that's on the horizon, I mean, we're maybe getting to the edge of the impact of COVID on the market, so nobody knows what to expect coming out of this. Certainly, there's going to be some disruption on the horizon here. Commercial real estate and office space is sort of like a little bit in jeopardy, let's say, as we all change the way we work and communicate. My gut is we're probably going to be back to normal. I think offices will fill back up. They may change a little bit with more space, and more offices are going to become more of an experience and more of a perk. The other big thing that we're experiencing, at least in Canada, is a huge wave of inbound population, right? Where the immigration here is increasing. The issues we're having around affordable housing and whatnot is going to continue to be a problem, right? And the cost of materials is going to continue to be a problem going forward. So that's a big challenge for our industry. We also have a huge deferred maintenance liability issue. We have to come up with the money to maintain all of our infrastructure, and we have to build a huge amount of infrastructure for all these new people coming in. I guess that's a bud and a thorn because we got to do it. It's an opportunity to build these projects and build companies to participate in all this growth. But it's going to be a challenge because we have the affordable housing crisis, and also we have a huge skilled labor shortage. So maybe technology can help with that as we start to introduce robotics and automation, other things downstream. But in the meantime, we just need more people to work in our industry. One of the things, the benefits around technology and evolving our industry is making the industry more attractive to work in. But that's a thorn going forward, just attracting people and finding people to actually do the work we need to execute.
My bud for CanBIM is that we could have a think tank for SMEs. That would be something that I would be looking forward to.
I think it's a good idea. Like I said, I think we got to figure out more initiatives to create opportunities for small companies to flourish.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so bring together all those like-minded people that are focused on smaller projects and smaller companies would be a good way to build that community.
Yes. Okay. I've had a lot of fun. I have learned a lot of new things today, even though I go to CanBIM's website at least once in a month. I hope everybody who would listen to this will also learn something new. We will have a better and growing community in CanBIM. Thank you so much for coming on to the farm.
Okay, take care. Thanks for inviting me.